Right now.
There it is. I see the little red light. Thank you, Kel. Thank you, Jen, for getting us going here. So this is going to be, it's supposed to be like a fun night of being able to just kind of hang out around the table and have some good food and share some memories and some thoughts of the year and show appreciation to our committee that unfortunately we're on Zoom. And Kelly and Chase and I were thinking, okay, so how do we get some food over to you? What can we do? So somebody should be knocking at your door right now. Can you hear it? Okay, that didn't work. So we thought about Uber Eats and sending somebody out to everybody. And we found out with all of Kelly's research is that don't try to bring food to people during a meeting. The timing doesn't work very well. You never know when somebody's going to show up or not. And so we decided to kind of pivot, and we're going to be providing you still an opportunity for some food. And we are looking to support our downtown businesses. And so we are compiling a list right now. Kel has reached out to, I think, 5 or 6 different businesses to see if they would be interested in participating. We've been thinking about also not kind of having it in a set day or a set time, knowing that many of you might be working from different places and just can't get there in a specific time. So instead of coming in from Vancouver for 1 hour of being able to pick up your food probably would not work. And so what we're attempting to do is have multiple days and maybe even 2 weeks is what we'd like to have. And we don't know if they're all going to agree or not. But so we'll ultimately probably have 3 out of those 5 or 6 that we're contacting for you as an option to go in and get your set meal is how we've seen that done, and how the city does it with their staff for staff appreciation. Kelly's going to be in charge of getting information out to you. We're hoping it will be probably before the end of this week. No guarantee that it'll be tomorrow, but it will be this week sometime. And so she'll give you all the information. You'll probably be needing to coordinate back through Kelly. And essentially it'll be a $15 meal in that range. And we are providing the tip. So it'll be kind of this range, and we're taking care of everything. So we want to show, our appreciation to you of being to all of these Zoom calls all year, sitting through them, contributing to all of our conversations, making Beaverton a better place. And ultimately, we still want to show, our gratitude. And so we hope that you'll take advantage of that. I know Kelly's going to have a couple more things to say, so I'm going to kick it over to her on this. Kel, what did I miss? Or what did I make a mistake on?
Thank you, Tyler. I think you did really good. I'm just going to share my screen really quick. And I want us to take a 2-3 minute brainstorm, but I'm going to share my screen first. And then I'll explain. Because first of all, I want to make sure. Can you guys see the URAC 2020 Annual Appreciation Dinner spreadsheet?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so for now, I'm focused on businesses in downtown Beaverton, and I've also tried to narrow it down. So the city has recently done an all-staff appreciation meal to staff, and so I'm trying to focus the restaurants that were not included in that effort, just to spread the love. And one of the things that came to my mind was these are all downtown. So maybe give you guys a couple of minutes to brainstorm some other places that might spike your interest outside of downtown. So, and then let me just go over the logistics. Really what it's going to be is a prepaid option, like Tyler just said. Probably you guys will have to order in and ahead of time and pick up. And then we're thinking like a 2-week window so that we can make sure everybody has the opportunity to participate, even if they're going to be out of town or you know, and through the weekend. And then also the restaurants, some of the restaurants will, what I'm finding are either only open for lunch or only open for dinner, sometimes both. So anyway, let's open it up for brainstorming session. Just throw out your ideas on places that you guys would like to see outside of downtown. And I'll just start the timer now. Go.
What about the food cart pod? Like places at the BG Food Cartel?
Great.
Can we add UR?
Who?
UR, UR?
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Or
UR.
the place on Watson, next to Naquan, Kel, the Mediterranean.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to spell it.
You are.
UR.
Okay, thank you. Like urban renewal?
Yeah.
And you're so
Good.
good.
Okay.
There's a Puerto Rican place that I've never tried, but it's called Oregon.
So
It's on
good.
Annie.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on the list of staff options
Oh, okay.
last time, so maybe last resort.
It was the restaurant that replaced Jacoby right across from a Fury, and I don't know the name of it, but it's quite good. I've been there once.
Gosh, what? Yeah, Andy. That's not Koya Sushi, though, right?
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
not a furry. What did it replace?
Wait, that's not Koya, is it? Is Koya?
I don't know.
Oh, it could
I
be.
think
That might be Koya. Let me Google it.
so. There's Top Burmese. I don't know if that was on anyone else's list. And the new Mediterranean place on Broadway next to Gloria's Secret Cafe, Somar. I just had their food the other night for the first time. It is better than I love their food, so I was shocked.
Okay, say it again, Anessa, and then final call.
Somar, Somar. It's on Broadway.
How about Miley Rosa, the pizza place?
You can take the question mark out of there. That is Koya. I just didn't remember the name of it, so you already have it.
Okay. Any more
Shut up,
burning desires? Great. So after that, does anybody have any idea about the dates? Are those dates, do you think that you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity within those dates? If not, I can try to extend it.
Yeah,
I
so
may or
December.
may not be in Hawaii.
So December 14th through the 31st is our target dates. We can't guarantee that at this point, but those are the target dates that we're shooting for.
Yeah, and I think it's option, but I think it's possible. But Sarah, do you want to extend that when?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not actually going to Hawaii. I wish that I was, but no, I'm not. I think like would be sort of probably harder for me. We're still trying to figure out what the holidays look like in a COVID era, but maybe trying to get together with my niece and nephew. And so, but like I can make it work. But yeah, I'm not going to be in Hawaii, unfortunately. Yeah. I just had like a 20-second like dreaming of like what that would be like. But and then I read an article and now I've given up. But that's cool.
Yeah. So aloha, sister. Hey, so anybody else want to make any comments before I close this back up to Tyler? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kel. Hi, Nathan. It doesn't sound like your mic's working, Nathan.
Still can't hear you, Nathan.
Yeah, you may need to call in, Nathan. Okay. So
Same thing happened to Jennifer. Don't feel bad.
It's our fault, not yours. How's that? Okay, so thank you for that. But anyway, so, you know, again, just want to show you our gratitude and feel bad that we're not able to meet together. And so Kelly will be sending out an email to us all and with directions on how to connect in and how the process will work. So be looking for that. And if you have any questions, let us know and we'll figure it all out. And so again, this night is an opportunity to talk about you know, what we've done this year, kind of look towards next year. Chase has got some activities about community engagement and how do we engage as an agency. But before we get into that, and we'll be, you know, aware of our time too. We don't want this to drag on tonight, but at the same time, you know, want it to be kind of a relaxed night. And participate in, you know, we may, as long as you don't have any backfeed from your phone or from your computer, have you know, just have your mic off too. But like, as we get into this, we've got some folks who won't be with us come January. And, you know, this is always kind of the tough meeting to talk about, you know, our committee members who have elected to, you know, go on to bigger and better things or do some more activities with family or give an opportunity for somebody else to come into the committee. And so we want to talk about that a little bit. And also here at kind of the end of 2020, you know what, it's good to get done with this year, but no offense to you committee members who are leaving. It's more about the year itself. So hopefully as we get into 2021, it is a better place for all of us. We will be missing some folks though. So I'm going to start off with Dominic. Dom has been with the city in various capacities for many, many years. In fact, I probably met Dom kind of out of the bat when I came to the city 22 years ago, on just because of all of the impacts that the BGs have had in our downtown. Beaverton Foods was here, and it's where Milliken Way currently is at Cedar Hills Boulevard. And Dom's family has been here for as long as it was Beaverton, I think, right, Dom? And
well, since 1910.
You know, and so pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And you know, when Beaverton Foods left Beaverton, it was kind of weird to see that happen. But you know, the good thing for us though, Dom and his family are still with us, doing lots of different things, and we're excited that, you know, as we have done so much redevelopment around them, and we know that there's been pains of things that, you know, we try to figure out, but Dom has been there for the community in many, many ways. And Urban Renewal is one of those ways. And when we went in to change the charter and go to the voters to approve the Central Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Plan, Dominic has been advising on those pieces all along. And then when URAC was created, he was asked to see if he's interested in being a participant, and he said, yeah, absolutely. And so he's been here. So it's going to be kind of this big void of missing Dom's, you know, history of his family, of the work that Grandma BG, his dad, his brother, his dad's brothers and sisters have done here in the city, and then all of the grandkids and the impacts. You know, and I'm glad that he said, you know, BG Food Cartel as an option for food. Yeah, and you know, that's one of those amazing cornerstones of what has been going on in our downtown and here recently. So it's been awesome. You know, Dom, when he said that he's not going to continue on, I was heartbroken, but he also said he's not going away, and so that made me feel better that, you know, we're all going to be, you know, continuing to learn from him, learn from the family, and learn to grow and do it right. And I think the thing that I always will take from Dom is, you know, you have to know who you're talking to. No matter what you're doing, you have to know, you know, the circumstances. You have to know and try to understand, you know, the bits and pieces, and not just to assume. And so, Don, did you have anything you want to say? But thank you from the city, and thank you from us. We're going to miss you.
Well, thanks, Tyler. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's really this out of all the committees and everything I've done over the years, I tell everybody this committee was my by far and away my favorite, and it was just so collaborative and so many things going on. But you know, over the years, you know, there's been a lot of challenges, obviously, and but far and away more good things come out of it. And I've really enjoyed all my being active with things. You know, it's just time with a lot of projects going on with Beaverton Foods and some redevelopment with the family. And yeah, it's probably a good time for me to kind of step back a little bit and allow somebody else to come in and participate in this great committee and have a voice in shaping the future of Beaverton. It's going to be around another 100 years real easy. So some of the things we're doing today will be thought of, I think, fondly in history, and we can say we all did it. It was you alluded to a lot of projects, Tyler. There was a lot of people involved there, and I feel very fortunate to. Some of it I just witnessed, some of it I participated, and just it was really a lot of great people trying to do a lot of great things for a city that has been good to my family for over 100 years. And so it's like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just kind of moving on with life and projects and priorities for right now. It's good to step away from this committee and let somebody fill the void. And I'm sure you guys will drag me back into something else somewhere along the lines. There'll be opportunities for us all to interact again in some form of capacity. And I really have enjoyed all the relationships with staff and other committee members and BURA and in this particular area. So again, thanks for the kind words, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Don. And you're always welcome back to be listening and dropping us a dime, especially when we need it. So we'll always be looking for some words of wisdom. So thanks, Don. Ann Snyder. Ann has been with URAC now, I think did you go two rounds with us?
I think 5 years.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Right, because right. And, I was surprised when Ann came to me and said, I think I'm going to step down as well. And I'm like, Ann, you're such a great contributor to this committee. You don't have that same connection to downtown. And if you don't know, she lives in the Highland neighborhood, active neighborhood association in its own right. And it's really kind of grown over the years too. And I'm not sure if you're still kind of connecting in with Highland, Ann, but it is a very active neighborhood. Ann has come in and been a part of, what we've been trying to accomplish of having people come in and have different ways of thinking and thinking about those who are not thought of. And so one of the things that always comes to my mind about Ann is that she's able to bring forward, don't forget that we are representing an entire community, no matter what we do. And I appreciate that feedback, appreciate kind of where we have grown, and it leads to kind of to our big topic tonight, is because of the things that Ann and a couple others over the years have brought, Carmela and Sheila and and some those folks who have this perspective that we've needed. And we've needed it from not just the committee, but from Urban Renewal and from a community itself. Ann is not going away completely, though. She is going to continue to be on the BURA Budget Committee. And so I appreciate that, Ann. I let her know that there is an advisory committee being formed for the Loop project. I have recommended that Ann get a call to find out if she's interested in being involved with that, because I think that would be a great way to keep Ann involved in the things that we're doing down here, because it has so many tentacles tied to it, and connecting, Beaverton Central to Old Town, and making sure that as that gets designed, it's designed with the community in mind, and that means everybody in mind. So hopefully they give you a call in, and that you're able to spend some time help advising from the community's perspective. And so thank you, Ann, for all of your time. And BURA budget, they meet in May, so don't be hiding during late April or in May when we send you documents. So you have anything to say, Ann?
A couple things. This has been a fascinating committee to be on. I've really appreciated the opportunity. As I've talked to you about, Tyler, I'm a firm believer in citizen participation and in turnover so that more people can participate. I don't want to stay on a committee and hog it just because I love it. So 2.5 terms is a good amount of time to have learned so much. And to be able to find out what's happening in Beaverton and to take that knowledge and share it with people I know and see every day. But it's time for other people to have that opportunity. So I want to step aside and make an opening for someone else who's interested. And I'd love to continue to be involved in other opportunities for voluntary citizen participation over the years. So, but if I am, it will be on a kind of a moving basis.
That's awesome, Ann. And Ann has recently retired from her job. She's been kind of bouncing around between Salem and here in Beaverton over the last few years. And so, you know, this is a fantastic time for Ann. Hopefully 2021 will allow you to get out and about the way that you'd like to.
Hopefully.
So we got a couple others that will be leaving us. Inessa Vitko. Inessa has been also one of those longtime original URAC members. Inessa has had kind of various ways of her connections back to URAC as well. She lives in central Beaverton. She had worked for TriMet. She has been a very active person who will go and visit every single restaurant in our downtown from the way it used to be to the way it is today. And she encourages others to not only be thinking about, you know, how we shape our downtown, but how do you get around and how do we do it in a safe, meaningful way? You know, I'd love to have Inessa kind of, because she rides her bike, and I think, you know, that's one thing that she'll be doing is, you know, getting around, and then being able to take that transit thoughts and how, you know, she looks at communities and using of transit. How do we connect? How do we make sure that we're providing for all walks of life in our community? I've appreciated Inessa being able to take that vision and bring it through and keep that motivation piece to us. Now, Inessa might have been a good one to be on this advisory committee that I recommended for Ann, but Inessa is actually been recommended by Cheryl Tweedy, the executive director of BURA, to be a BURA board member. And so tomorrow night, the BURA board recommendations will go to City Council. Along with the other boards and commissions. And there was, as you recall, there is 2 positions that were open. There's Doug Menke's time was coming to Renewal, and then there was the 4th position. We had 9 applicants for the BURA board this round. Inessa was one of those that was recommended to the BURA board. So, you know, she might be leaving our committee and all, but she's actually taken that next step into the BURA board role. And it's fantastic. It makes me happy and proud that we're able to, you know, have our 3rd advisory committee member moving forward to the BURA board position. And and that's a goodbye, but you know what, we're still going to see, or I'm going to at least see quite a bit of, and you're going to be able to be a decision maker. You know, we'll be talking a lot about, you know, how do we incorporate URAC better and with the BURA board so they're getting the same information and recommendations get appropriately moved forward. So thank you for your time with the advisory committee. You've helped guide and us as chair for many years. And kind of built our advisory committee to the way it is today. So, you have any words that you'd like to share?
Unlike Ann, I am a hog. I've been on the committee from the start. But I'm super excited for to be able to move on to BURA. It's something I've wanted for a while, not because I've wanted to leave this group, but I just wanted to have a greater level of involvement with urban redevelopment. and because downtown is home to me and I care so much about this area. So I'm really excited about that. It's weird because there's a bunch of us, like, it's interesting because Dom and Ann, I mean, we've been around, there's a lot of us have been around for a long time on here in the committee. So it's just interesting and neat to see that there's going to be lots of new faces. I was reading the resumes, or the, I guess, applications of the people who were applying to backfill us. And so I think there's just going to be it'll be exciting for you guys to have something new and different. And I am going to definitely miss the informal and camaraderie that we have in this group. So I'll bring some of that crazy pink glitter up to BURA and have them understand how to have a good time. So yeah, but I'm so grateful that I've been able to be able to participate for as long as I have between the budget committee and URAC. I mean, I love the city and I love what we're doing, and you know, this has always been a special group and still is. So.
Yep. Well, you'll have to tell us what we need to do better as we move forward. So keep that in mind. But thanks, Vanessa.
Yeah, you know, that's my thing. I got to figure out how to connect. I want to connect us better, advisory and the board. So it's going to be on my docket. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And so then we have a fourth person who's going to be leaving us, and that is Sarah Walton. And Sarah is going to be stepping into the fourth BURA board position. And so congratulations, Sarah. You have been kind of an instrumental piece to URAC here in the last few years, and kind of the kind of what I've appreciated with you is coming in with this perspective of, you know what, I'm moving into Central Beaverton. I want to be in Central Beaverton. I want my family to grow up in this diverse area. I want to be a contributor. I want the people who I work with to know about Beaverton and what's going on. I want to make sure that when I'm learning over at Nike, I can transfer that over to the city and to the community that, you know, we're representing. And we're at a crossroads with urban redevelopment as we talk about the downtown equity strategy, community input and engagement that we've been attempting to do. Sarah is able to bring that, what she is learning over at Nike and the experiences that are going on that is going to be beneficial to us all, and the way that we continue to grow and grow appropriately, and get the word out of what we are trying to accomplish. And hopefully through the decision-making role, and as we get into the details of the downtown equity strategy, that have that keen eye and be able to help influence a BURA board of 11 total people. Some of them are new, not just our appointees, but also our city councilors who are coming in that are new. And so that the makeup of the BURA board is changing, just as our government is changing. So Sarah, congratulations, and I want to kick it over to you. And if you have any things that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. I think honorable mention of the pick your family up and move to Central Beaverton goes to my husband, who goes along with my crazy ideas. But yeah, the ultimate commitment to making this all work is relocating my family to be in the heart of it. So, but no, I think for me, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I echo everything that everybody has said. This has been a really fun group. I also sort of, and what you said resonates with me, is like, I really believe in sort of our civic duty to get involved and choose the areas that like we want to sort of be active community members. And so I've learned a lot through this process, and similar to Vanessa, I'm just excited to sort of deepen my involvement and again, use the skill set that I have from a sort of work standpoint within the board. So I will miss this group. I agree with Vanessa. I think, again, on my docket as well, maybe she and I can partner on it, is like how to connect the two. Because again, I think that there's a lot there. It's a great group of people. I've learned a lot from everybody here. I think keep it up. Yeah, look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, we got new people coming in on January 4th, I think is our next meeting. And so this is, our transition of, kind of reflection of the past, maybe a little touch to the future. But as we come into January, we'll have a little more kind of basics of kind of making sure that we ramp up our new committee members. We'll do onboarding before Christmas with them, and so they'll definitely have the background, just as we have done with each of you over the years. So anyway, so thank you to our committee members who are stepping away. Don't step too far. Please stay active in whatever you're doing, and you've got my phone number, so please feel free to reach out as necessary. Anybody want to say anything before I move on to the next subject matter? Okay, seeing none. So looking at 2021, and Chase was asking me if we're going to talk a little bit here about our reflection of the past. And I thought about that after we talked, and we kind of know what we've been up to. And I want to give you an opportunity to be kind of thinking about what's been going on in urban redevelopment, and where we're headed. And so maybe we can just do a real quick brief, the things that we've kind of touched on this past year, and then I'll help guide to 2021 and things that are going to be coming our way for further discussion. Big highlights from this past year. Anyone want to take a lead on things that came to URAC? And I'm going to look at Rebecca, because Rebecca is actually going to be speaking to the BURA board tomorrow night as a representative from URAC doing the annual report. Usually I would have asked everybody, and I didn't have our November meeting when we combined the two. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to reach out to our vice chair, since our chair did it last year. And so maybe I'll start with you, Rebecca. Accomplishments from this past year.
You want me just to do one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Get the ball rolling.
Ball's gonna get rolling with the pivot we've had to do really on COVID. I think that's kind of been the most impressive thing that we've done this year. I mean, it really has put a crimp in everything. And one of the things I appreciated was the Downtown Beaverton Association coming in and talking about their strategy for helping, working with Beaverton, helping the small businesses in downtown Beaverton, and making sure that that we're still having equity and inclusion in everything we do, even when it comes to COVID, because I know that was something a lot of people had concerns about, because a lot of the time the businesses that have the most impact are those that are minority owned. And so we want to make sure that, COVID, I mean, it's killing the restaurant industry. It really is. And a lot of small businesses, there's not a ton you can do about it other than to give money where you can. But I think that we've done a very good job in trying to make sure that it's not just first come, first serve, everybody scramble so the people with means can get there first. It is, let's make sure that we're taking a whole approach. Everybody put your applications in, and tell me if I'm wrong in remembering this, but this is what I'm remembering, is that everybody put your applications in, we'll take a look, and we do need-based as opposed to first come, first serve, which is what I like, because we talked about that last time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Eric, you ready?
I can figure out the mute. Yeah, so I think we looked at several really interesting things this year, and I think they're more, not 2020 projects, more longer term stuff. But the downtown design plan, the diversity plan we talked about, the loop, all of this stuff. It's really big, really important stuff, and it's been exciting for me anyway to be. It feels like on the ground floor, and I imagine we're going to be seeing more of that over the next couple of years. But I think we got some really interesting things going on. So this has been my second year. In the first year, it felt like more sort of smaller, contained projects, which, I mean, those are also interesting as well. But it was sort of a different feel moving from 2019 to 2020, where we've got large scale projects, multiple things on the horizon. So be good to see where that goes over the next year or two.
Oh, go ahead, Paula.
I was just going to add on to that. I think because Eric and I started at the same time, I think the second year, what I thought was really different was the first year, it felt like people were telling us things. They were informing us. The second year, it felt like people were asking us, like, what do you think about this? What would you do around the, you know, the dividing lines between in scope, out of scope for these different program type delimiters? And I really appreciated that because we're supposed to be an advisory committee, and I felt like we were just getting informed, which was cool because it's like being on the inside scoop, but being able to actually provide some thought leadership around what's happening in the city, I thought was a big bump up for the committee this year. So I really appreciated that.
I'll jump in because what my sort of thing was related to sort of what Paula said is like, sort of if I think back, like a really memorable sort of contribution that we had as a team was on the downtown equity strategy. And I think it was really cool for me because it was like, well, like, this is my neighborhood now, so I can speak to sort of this line over here. And then it was like, I think it was like Paula's mom lives here. And like, there was like things where it was like, people knew. And so like it, to me, like what I took away from that meeting was like the sort of depth of knowledge that this group has on sort of like block to block, like, you know, sort of like how each street and sort of intersection, it was like very sort of pieced together by all of us, where it was like, you know, I think a total group effort. And again, seeing sort of now I've had sort of one preview to BURA, and it was like in that meeting was referenced URAC and that conversation of the downtown equity sort of in the like, you know, the boundaries and sort of thinking about that. So it was like sort of a direct connection. I think what Paula's saying is like seeing that sort of have an impact. But I thought it was so cool where it was like, we were literally like where the lines were drawn, and it was like, you know, Tyler's like, Sarah, do you have a perspective on this? Because it was like, you know, my house or not my house, like right around my neighborhood. And then we talked about sort of going north. And so I thought that was really cool because it just shows like how much this group actually knows about the area that we're talking about, which just makes it a huge resource.
And after that conversation, the next time they came back, the boundaries were different based on what we talked about. I mean, how great is that?
Nathan, you ready?
You can act it out. Sounds like
charades.
It looks like what you're saying is important, though. So
sounds like 2 words.
Very influential. Thank you, Nathan. I learned a lot.
I think you said ditto. Did I get
that?
Okay, we'll let you work on that, Nathan. Anyone else?
I sensed definitely a level of synergy this past year of a lot of the small projects coming together and with kind of an overarching view or direction, pulling together the equity, the loop. We didn't really have anything to do with the downtown eating out in the street thing, but all the various ways that Beaverton's been creative just are starting to feel to me like they're gelling, that they really came together this year, and they're reaching a critical mass that in terms of implementation and pace. So to me, it wasn't one big success story so much as this project is growing and evolving, and I think that in itself is a success.
I think
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh my God. There we go.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I can hear myself echo, so I'll make this kind of somewhat concise. But
well, Nathan,
I think what I found.
Nathan, mute your computer. Now you can talk.
No, the speaker's on your computer. So like your actual little thing down below.
Not your phone, but your computer.
How about this? I'm just going to talk away from a distance. I want to participate. I'm going to do everything possible to do that. So I'm going to just kind of be still here in the screen. So two major takeaways from this year. I think one was the most obvious is just how, despite how ravaging this disease has completely shut everything down, the city and the people and our citizens have still found a way to still progress forward. And the city business has not yet stopped. And one highlight that I found was just really incredible was I think it was the August meeting. We had the presentation that was provided to us. It was the Downtown Equity Strategy. And it was incredible to see, one, we still had the strategy and it was still moving forward. The project wasn't shelved. And there were people who were actively working on designing, implementing, and then also providing us updates along the way for that downtown equity strategy. So, I think, again, that was back in August when things were still kind of up in the air about how the city business was going to keep moving forward. But, as a citizen, just seeing all this progress forward in this capacity has been really inspiring, to say the least. So those are really the two major takeaways. And then, the exercise that Sarah was talking about as well, when we were actually actively drawing out on the map, and then Eric pointed out, they actually took that advice and then they implemented that. That says a lot, right? It just kind of shows the weight that some of our opinions have. And I was really blown away by that. So it was really cool to be actively engaged in that assignment, but then to also see results from that participation as well. So that provides me a lot of hope that, myself and everyone here on this committee and other citizens in the city can participate, their voice is heard, and then action is taken based on their voice. So I'll go in and wrap it up here. I'll somehow find a way to put myself on mute again. But those have been the major key takeaways for this year.
Thank you, Nathan. Good job with the phone.
Yeah, you bet.
That happened with parking too, right? We had that fun thing where we put the little coins in the boxes for the parking, and then she came back and things had changed with parking. Don't remember exactly what, but things had changed. And I thought that was good.
It's actually funny you mentioned that. Molly was asking me just this past week about, because she's moving on to an RFP for enforcement downtown. And so she was going back and getting all that information that she had collected from your meeting. So yeah, that's good. Anyone else? Okay, so 2021, thank you for that. Inessa sent me a message and I failed to see it in time. We'll try to do that a little bit later. So as we get into 2021, yeah, I think one of the major takes from what we were kind of talking about today is, there's a lot of projects that are set. This is a 3-month project in our city. Just doesn't happen. Things don't happen that quickly. They take quite a while. And sometimes that gets frustrating because things take time. But to do it correctly and to participate actively, do the proper community engagement, figuring out the rights and the wrongs and all the other variables, it does take time. Some of the big things that that we were alluded to, the downtown equity strategy, obviously that is probably one of our biggest projects that as redevelopment agency is going to be tackling this year. And it's not necessarily something we're going to see go vertical. It's not going to be a project in which we have better connectivity, but it's how we get there. It's how, that ultimately it's going to help us get to these projects in a better way than that we've had in the past. The Loop project is kicking off, as you know. They're starting to they've got basically their plan to move forward. They're doing their audit of kind of community engagement pieces and figuring out, that world. And then they'll start going into the advisory committees and technical advisory committees and figuring things out. Again, long-term project. There's a couple other of those projects that we've talked about over time that, are going to take some time. So one new project that will be coming to us at some point, and I want to give this on to your radar today, and it's something that we have not talked about at all, and it's going to be kind of an important piece, we're doing a presentation tomorrow night to BURA, and this is the Sub-Basin. It's called, affectionately known as the Sub-Basin Strategy. Essentially, Clean Water Services has recently changed their regulations and requirements for stormwater management. And those changes that coming out of Clean Water Services are going to impact our downtown redevelopment. And we need to kind of think about how we want to, as a community, improve and participate in order to continue this momentum that we've had on the changes. Hey, Kel, can you send Scott Winter the link? I just got an email from him, please. Thank you. And these changes, we're going to have to come up from an approach of helping out development in order to continue to be able to do and meet the goals of what is set forth in the plan, what's set forth in the community vision in our downtown in particular. Redevelopment is not going to be able to happen the way that we've kind of been able to see it because of some of these changes. So the presentation tomorrow night, and if you're interested, and you can always go back and watch the video later on, you don't have to sit down to watch it tomorrow night, but you can go back and watch the video, but I would encourage you to, so you have a little bit of knowledge, because I expect we'll be talking about it in here, is what kind of contribution and figuring out a plan of attack helping out with these new regulations in our redevelopment scenarios. And it might be regional facilities, regional stormwater facilities. That could be part of an open space plan. It could be part of a parks plan. It could be part of various ways of tackling improving our creek systems. Right now, we have a lot of our creeks in the downtown that are not daylighted. And so is that something that we want to consider in order to help improve these new regulations? So that's going to be something that is coming our way. It's going to be a big topic, and it's kind of getting its kick start tomorrow night at BURA. So any questions on that? Because I've kind of muddled through it without getting clear. Yeah, Rebecca.
Did I mention it or no? That we're going to be looking at that for 2021 and that you'll provide more details? No,
it's okay, because they're going to talk about it tomorrow night. Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, that's an important topic. I mean, you go back to Goal 5 that Metro was putting out, and there's been a lot of issues around water around town, and wetlands and wetlands management and who's in charge of what, and interbureaucratic squabbling over who's in control of this stuff. So, I would encourage you guys to stay up on it and really find those compromisable points that both accomplish the vision of the community, but also satisfy all, how many bureaucrats and bureaucracies are going to have a say in this? It's going to be a lot of them, from the federal government through the state, through the county, through Walton, the water district, you guys at the city. I mean, it goes on, and friends of something. I mean, it's going to be pretty, I hope it doesn't get contentious, but I hope everybody can come together in a collaborative way and fulfill what needs to be done in a thoughtful manner, but also allow, this urban area to do what it needs to do to accommodate, citizens and people and businesses.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Yeah. And a few years ago, when we had the Creekside Master Plan, and this is a little bit different from the Creekside Master Plan, but the committee at that time spent a lot of discussion matters with engineers and folks who are working on trying to figure out our creek system and the floodplain and what can we do, and this there's a lot of reasons why Clean Water Services is changing their system, and part of it is because of the national permits that we're all under for Washington County for our stormwater systems. So it's going to be kind of an expensive endeavor, and we're going to have to figure out how does it all get funded, and that's going to be part of our conversations here. And I'm seeing that my internet's becoming unstable. Is that okay now? Okay, yeah, okay. All right. So that's kind of, we'll leave it at that. Is there any other 2021 thoughts that you might have coming up in our world that we should be getting on our look aheads and high page?
Two parts. One in honor of the work that's been done over the last few years and has really ramped up in the last couple of years, and then looking forward and thinking about our equity plan and all of those components. This group has been repeatedly pushes for that equity lens on discussions. Anne's always done it. Sheila, I know she's on BURA now. I know Carmel used to be real. It was, you know, there's, and then that's not that, these are just highlighting people, but there's been a push on the gas to do that, and I encourage this team to not let up, given everything that's going on in the world and continues to go on, and is I think I truly in my heart of hearts believe is fixable. We just have to keep it at the forefront of what we're doing and what we're thinking about. And so looking back, I want to commend URAC for putting the pressure on those conversations and bringing that up repeatedly, and moving into 21 and obviously beyond is just keeping that pressure on to make sure that when we're looking at it, we're solving for everybody. We're not solving for one group, you know, or one person or one type of business owner or whatever, one type of homeowner or whatever that is. And we all obviously have personal interests and things that are important to us, but there's a world, Beaverton is incredibly diverse, and if the voice isn't at the table, we need to make sure that we continue to be the voice for that person at the table. And this group has done an incredible job year over year of just getting more and more invested in that. And so as we move into 21, I just don't let off the gas, guys. Like, you know, Sarah and I both will be up at the BURA level. You know, we'll have Sheila there, who I also know is a great partner in that. With Lacey coming on as the mayor, also an incredibly important thing for her. So let's not let off the pressure, because our city is so lucky to be so diverse, more diverse than pretty much any other place in the whole entire state. And so we have to keep protecting and making sure everyone's heard and that we're doing right by our whole community. And so when I talked to Tyler and Cheryl, I got like weepy eye, and I'm doing it again right now. So I'm sorry that I'm such a sap, but we have such a cool place that we live, and there's just so much to make sure that we're the owners and protectors of, and if someone's not at the table, that we make sure we're that voice for that. So this group's done a great job, and I just want us to keep doing that.
Thanks, Vanessa. Hi, Scott.
Hey.
Anyone else want to chime in? Okay. Thank you for that. And so I'm going to introduce our next guest. His name is Chase Landrey. And Chase is now, as of, let's see, Wednesday, he'll be with the city for exactly 1 year. And so this is his big night of being able to really hone in a little bit of further the discussion about, you know, increasing, you know, knowledge about BURA and the community engagement piece that, you know, is obviously a big part of where we need to be going. Chase has got some activities for us and discussion points, more on discussion points than activities. I know he wanted to do a bunch of activities and just couldn't really figure out how to make it completely work the way he'd like to here. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Chase, and thank you everyone for our hors d'oeuvre. How's that? Paige and Scott, did you bring snacks for us?
They're on the way.
Okay, good. Thank you. Chase.
Yeah, I guess the old adage of do you have enough for the rest of the class doesn't really work right now, does it? Well, thank you everybody for joining with. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. But just also want to acknowledge that You know, there's a lot of stresses and other things going on, distractions, everything else in our lives. So as we're going through this, take a moment just to breathe. This is the same great team that we've been with all year. We're just going to share. There were some ideas out there. Really want to hear what you have to say, and hopefully zip through it pretty quick and spend the majority of the time just hearing from you. So without further ado, let me share my PowerPoint here with you all. All right, start from the beginning up here. Okay, so community engagement, a word some of you maybe have heard before. Why are we here? Want to acknowledge the work that we've accomplished. Tyler already talked a lot about that. You all shared some really great stories and different things we've covered this year. Regular reflection is good for us. URAC, you have been providing us some feedback, and also Tyler and I recently finished some more interviews with folks who will be coming on URAC and some of you who will be returning again. And one of the things we heard from a lot of people was, I would love to have things in addition to the meetings, in addition to other items where I could get engaged, where I could help out, share about the work of BURA, and provide feedback or go out to the community to share about these items. So we heard that. We have some new money. So as you have been hearing this year, 55 million, is that right, Tyler, in bond funding? Unlocked for BURA work. We have new budgets we've been working through. And so want to talk about what community engagement looks like for the projects that that money is going to be going towards. And of course, it's a new year. So what I want to cover tonight, just a quick background, BURA work, community engagement, URAC's role, and your questions. And then for each of those, we'll have some discussion questions, activities, go through quickly to try to say, how can we make that better? So the questions I would like to answer, and if you can let me know, is my window popping up over this, or can you all see it very clearly? Very good. Okay, thank you. Couple quick questions. How can we better communicate? So diving into the messaging about BURA. What are our shared assets and relationships that we can tap into? As we've talked about before, and as we were going into the backgrounds of what a lot of you who have served on this board for a long, on this committee for a long time, there are so many skills and abilities, connections and groups and ideas that you all have, and your voices and ideas are really valuable. So I want to tap into that a little bit more, and I think we'll all benefit from hearing what you have to share. And then how can we honor your time, knowledge, and expertise? So you come here for a few hours each month, you have other emails that you read from us, and your time that you're pouring into this, we really want to honor that. Make sure it's valuable, keep improving that so that time you pour in is valuable to you in the same way it is to us. And finally, what should we prioritize? So if we go through those questions, what's top of the list? Like Anessa was talking about, you know, focusing and bringing the issues of diversity and equity back to the forefront, and what other things should we be looking at in addition and along with that in the next year? So BURA's mission. BURA, essentially, redevelopment, renewal, and implementing the goals of the urban renewal plan. So what are those goals? Voila. Not going to read through all of them. I think you've seen them all many times before. But the last one is actually one of the goals from the original plan: to inform, communicate, and seek engagement for decision making to reflect the community values and priorities. Also, if you have some questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. We're going to get to a discussions section 2, or I'll take a pause to get the question from the chat. Okay. So then what is community engagement if we're talking about that? Helps to have a common understanding. It's a process that meaningfully involves community members and or stakeholders to inform decisions for planning, policies, programs, and services that will impact them. Each of those bold terms really important to me, especially meaningfully involves. As you have shared already, it's not just great necessarily to have information poured at you. Your voice should be influencing and being involved in a meaningful way for the time that you're sharing in the process and in the projects. Also, that services that will impact them. So that if you're someone who is being impacted by something, you should have a say in what that looks like, be able to have an opportunity to share how that will affect you. So this is my favorite thing right now. This is the IAP2 spectrum. And what that is, International Association of Public Participation. I and some other people at the city are a member of this. And what this is really a tool to right-size community engagement. So this is something we use a lot on our projects. I wanted to share it with you in full, but we don't have to read the whole thing. But just knowing that from the left, you get the least involved, the least influence that the public has, to on the right, the most. So you have inform on the left, all the way to empower, where you're making the decisions as members of the public on the right, and the government is just saying, and the people working are just saying, whatever you say goes. Different projects fit into different places on this spectrum. And a lot of the things that we do fits on the inform side, which is telling people what's happening. We've been doing more of the consult side, where we're getting that feedback and doing, like you were saying, the improvements we've seen this last year. And when I talk about where I want to see URAC go with engagement, I want to see more of this involve part of it here. And the difference between the consult and involve is we're really starting to get you in on the ground floor of the ideas and talking about what solutions do you see? Not just what do you think about our solutions, but what do you want to bring forward and what ideas do you have? And fit that in earlier in the process. And so moving more and more to the right of more engagement, more of a democratic process in decisions that happen here. And then finally, a little background again on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just with the DEI plan, Beaverton uses race as a primary lens for all of our DEI work, and that racial equity will be achieved when structural barriers that have historically disadvantaged certain groups are removed. Everyone has access to the same outcomes, opportunities, and tools they need to thrive, and racial equity is measured in outcomes and is achieved when one's racial identity can no longer predict their success. I really like that last sentence there. That is what we are going for when we're talking about racial equity, that your racial identity does not predict your success. So what has the city been doing with this? We have citywide efforts, both internal and external, on the work that we're doing with all our staff, and then also on how we do engagement. We are asking some questions related to racial equity as we are launching our projects and doing that. We also have the downtown equity strategy, which is going to be huge. Okay, I know I've been talking for a while. We'll get into some activities next, but here are the assumptions, boiling down all those background ideas. The work we're doing is important. It's changing what Beaverton is going to look like, and the public should have input on that, and that input is important to being successful. Those affected should have a right to be involved in the decision-making process, and people need information to participate in a meaningful way. Equitable inclusion improves outcomes, and public and stakeholder support of BURA is important to its continuance. Maybe not necessarily year to year, but if we want to go forward with further projects, and if we want to continue on BURA into the next 100 years, like Dom was talking about, then we need public support to make that happen. So, discussion number one. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Kelly is going to share the overarching question in the chat. And if you are all willing to, unmute your mics, and we're going to do some quick fire back and forth questions on a few different lines of thought here. So with what we've been shared. Kelly, when you have a moment, go ahead and share that top level question.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so my computer is not letting me change to talk to everybody in the meeting. Oh my gosh.
All right, then you'll have to send it to whoever you're talking to, and then they'll have to post it.
Okay.
So if we're not able to pull that up, oh, did someone get it?
Paige, it's coming to you. I'm sorry.
All right, Paige, if you're willing to share that, read it out and then share it in the chat, and then I will come up with another solution for the other ones.
Do you want me to read it out or just share it in the chat?
Go ahead and read it out loud.
Okay. Discussion number 1. How can we better communicate about BURA and our urban renewal work to our community and stakeholders? That's the first bullet point. Should I stop there or read the rest of them?
Go and read the first bullet point.
That was the first one.
Got it. Second one then.
Okay. How important is it that people know that BURA is different than the city? At what level?
So this is something we encounter often when we're going out and talking about things. We're doing a lot of work as BURA. What do you all think about separation of BURA and the city when we're talking to folks out in the public who don't know anything about it? Is there important reasons for us to be saying this is a BURA item, this is something the BURA is doing, and why? And to what level?
Well, what are the outcomes and the goals for having that separate piece of knowledge? I mean, typically you can try, but the general public sees government, regardless of the level, or citizen committees, regardless of the level, as one thing. And I don't know that there's much to be gained by fighting that, but to the point of how can we better communicate about BURA, whether the city does it directly or through the neighborhood associations, nextdoor.com is a way to reach people who don't have to then attend a meeting or look at one on Zoom or go to any website or look up anything. It's a good push mechanism. So I would opt to really encourage you to use Nextdoor either directly or through the neighborhood associations. Highlands posts all the time on Nextdoor about events and things that are going on. Within those communications, you can explain what the various levels are and the involvement and stuff. I don't know that though would be your primary goal so much as here's what we're doing, here's how you can be involved, we'd like your opinion.
I think there's a good historical perspective here to that, you know, Beaverton used to have urban renewal and it got outlawed because the government in those days used urban renewal for pet projects that citizens weren't able to chime in on. And so it got not only, I mean, you got taken out of the charter of the whole city. So, you know, we had to bring it back in, and these committees, BURA and URAC, were set in to be, you know, a way for citizens to join in and be part of this process. So what previously had happened with the renewal wouldn't happen again. And I think it's good for the city staff. You guys need to keep reminding citizens of that. There's a reason why BURA and URAC exist, and it's because they have an opportunity to participate, making sure that the projects and the activities are what citizens of Beaverton actually want, not versus a few city councilors or maybe a staffer who has a pet project they want to get through. And so that's why all this exists. And I think it's good to communicate that from time to time with citizenry, and other people are going to follow after Ann and I and Sarah and Nessa are all gone. So.
I agree, Dom. I think one of the value adds for making sure people are clear on the difference between BURA and the city work is the fact that BURA has a whole bunch of layers of citizen involvement. You know, you have your URAC, you have your budget committee, you have city councilors, yes, you have the mayor, yes, you're gonna have the city manager. You know, sorry, the train's going by. I don't know if y'all can hear it. But I think it's important because partly what Dom talks about, and even layering on top of that, this is something that we discussed, Tyler, with Cheryl as well, is this concept of, maybe it was someone else, everything blends together. Urban renewal has a little bit of a bad connotation. It's gentrification. It's a whole lot of things that don't have good, and so knowing that you have people who are embedded in your community, who are citizens, who are business owners, who are representatives of special service districts, whatever that is, that are serving that community and they're feeding this process, I think that's really important. And knowing you can go talk to your neighbor about it as opposed to having to put in a special comment with the city or go on. It's very intimidating to have to go speak, you know, go to a public comment at a city council. It's very intimidating. Can you imagine if English isn't your first language, how intimidating that must be? That must just be horrifying. I couldn't even imagine. And so, you know, there's things that are, there's important layers of that to make sure that it's a project that, yes, has city support and it's for our community, but it's built up from the actual citizens of that area.
And I think the way you can reinforce that is that this is their tax dollars at work, right? So I think distinguishing between whether this is a city thing or a something else thing, it's still their tax money, our tax money that's paying for it. So I don't think separating it from the city is important. What is important is what you're talking about, and that's the fundamental of this is driven by you, taxpayer, who said, I want this. And this is these 10 things we've done in the last 10 years. And it's gonna be these 10 things we're gonna do in the next 10 years. And this is the value that we're bringing to you, especially right now where people feel a little jaded by politics and how their money is being spent. There's a lot of crookery going on. So if we can actually bring something in a way that resonates with people, that we're spending their money well, and oh, by the way, if you don't think so, it's real easy to get in there with this. Email this person or whatever if you'd like to provide some feedback. Just really simplify it, because the structures and layers that are a part of this just intimidate people. So simplifying the message, showing the value, showing that you asked for us to do this, we're doing it. And again, that gentrification point, that is the first thing I say. When I say, or someone asks me, what's this urban renewal thing? I say, it's not gentrification. It's the first thing I say, because that is just such a negative thing right now. And it's really easy to point out in Beaverton that it isn't gentrification, because they all know Ichabod's. They all know the Broadway Saloon, you know, the people that are from here. So it's real easy to say, Ichabod's looks like a respectable place. Like you could actually walk in there and your shows aren't going to stick to the floor anymore. These are good things. So anyway, I absolutely agree with
woman-owned, woman and family-owned, multiple generations of women owners.
Yes, which no one would ever believe.
And impeccably clean on the inside too.
Now, they just needed a little help.
Yeah, Chase, I was going to ask you, does BURA do any branding like outside of like projects in progress, like the storefront grants and so forth?
So that's exactly what we're going to dive into next, talking about that a little bit. And the answer is not really since its inception. There are project-specific things, like you're saying, grants or program-specific things, but actually sharing about what is our message of BURA is something we're working on, and that's, you guys are on the front lines right now.
Yeah, because I think, you know, seeing finished projects really resonates with a lot of people, and getting the word out that BURA had something to do with that. I think that would do a great
Before and after.
Yeah,
super
yeah.
cool.
I want to go back to Ann's point, though. I mean, whether we say it's the city or BURA or somebody else, it doesn't really matter to most people if we don't get that information out to them. If they don't find out until something, you know, after it's already, you know, in progress or after it's already done, they're not going to feel engaged. So if we want to, you know, bring in the community, if we want to be collaborative, people have to know before, not after. So I think it's, you know, the NACS is probably a good way to do it. I mean, that's, you know, people who are involved in their NACS are probably more involved in the active than the average citizen, but it's still a good start and still gets you out into the various neighborhoods. But I think it's incumbent on us to get this information out there beforehand, so people know that if they want to collaborate, that something's happening and they have that ability.
So I think that'll be the focus of our next activity, is going to be really how then can we use our networks to get more of this out, in addition to what the city's already doing and what ideas you have for us. Starting before that, what info can we better provide you all? Is it slogans, anything like that, quick stats that can help you share, you know, when your family or friends or people that you're going out and eating with saying, oh, I'm on URAC and this is what we're doing?
You know
So
what?
I've got
I've
something
always,
really simple from the corporate world is that the people that need you to push something on social media or LinkedIn or whatever, they give you the stuff to push. Here's a link, please, you know, post this, get it out. And that's a really simple way to do. You get to control the message, the way it looks, all that good stuff. And then we're just the agent that pushes it across our networks. That's a 5-second piece of work on our part, but we're getting the right image and the message out in the way that the BURA board wants it, or whoever's in charge of communications.
I
think
share
most
things
citizens-
like Restaurant Week when they come out across Facebook with my Facebook connections, but there haven't been actual messaging efforts or branding efforts that have come forward. That would be easy for all of us to share.
I got
I think
Dom
also-
there too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really, I know for myself, I'm project oriented, and you know, the people I interact with are project oriented. And I think it's good for BURA and the city to say, hey, look, these projects happen, and here was the gap that urban renewal helped get it over the top. And we felt these were good. I think that needs to be communicated. These projects were good for the citizens and good for Beaverton, and this is what urban renewal did to get it over. That's because that's what urban renewal is for, is that gap, and you know, those gaps between, you know, getting it done and not getting it done. And urban renewal is supposed to help with that gapping to get projects done, that people, to give us that tax increment. And you don't have to get too wonky with it, but when you see a building go up or a project going up in Beaverton, you know, there should be a little tagline here. Here's, you know, urban renewal's contribution to that.
I love the storefront projects too, as an example.
I
Of
love that.
smaller
Yeah.
size.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I think examples, concrete examples are your most effective communication tool, because people, I mean, stats are good. I think it's good. It's good for us to have the stats on hand and be able to you know, rattle those off, but nothing is going to stick in people's minds more than hey, here is an example of something we did that they can, you know, gravitate to.
Those are the stories that come out, like, you know, staying with Ichabod's, all the, you know, the multiple generation family owned women. I mean, there's going to be dozens and dozens of stories. It's like watching the Olympics, you know, the background stories and how these people got there. I mean, you got a project that was done. It all looks really simple when it's sexy and done, but the background stories and all these things are really, that's what connects us all, is understanding those background stories.
Yep. Totally agree.
So keep it concrete, keep it applicable, I'm hearing, to people, and let them also know that there's a quick way that you can comment on that, be involved with it with BURA or with URAC too.
Yeah, I think tying it back to involvement, right? It's sort of like brought to you by BURA, and it's like, join us. The next big thing is the downtown visioning project, or the, you know, like sort of like the like connection loop, I think, because that's where it's like, it's really intimidating to join. Like, I feel like, you know, it's like I waited for a while before I even sort of got it all engaged in the concept of NAC, because I was like, I'm going to show up, there's going to be 3 people, you're going to divide the work evenly, and I don't know what I'm signing up for. Sort of, you know, like, you have no idea what you're going to get into before you get into it. So I think, like, again, that sort of like showing like what's happening and the diversity of the things that are happening, and then sort of tie back to like, provide us feedback on this website. Like, that's a way to get involved. Or it's like, hey, like, join the meeting next Thursday. Like, you know, like, sorry, I have a little friend.
I
agree.
So a couple people already mentioned social media content, but like a simplified primer on what BURA is, how it works, what it provides would be great. And then, you know, that's something you can repurpose. You can do in social media. You can have as handouts, you know, wherever at city offices, and just kind of simplifies it a little faster than, say, the website type of thing.
People just want access to information. And when you don't give them that access to information, then they get mad, nervous, and they get ornery, and that's when things start to happen. So just get that information out there and give people the access to it.
I love it. Yeah, I have a coworker who loves the term just the facts, ma'am. If you've ever heard of a sheet like that, that's their term that they enjoy, of like, what's the 10,000 foot level of all these projects, and what's it here for? What's it doing? All right.
Yeah, I think too, like little bite-sized pieces of information too. Like, I think about the sort of like the big 5-page sort of guide with all the density of information in it, like the charts and graphs and numbers and stuff, where it's like, you know, over the, like, very few people are going to sort of consume that all in one chunk, but like people could consume it in snippets. So if you have the whole plan, like, how do you, like, did you know, like, this little sort of piece of it, and sort of bite size, because again, as we know, things get forwarded around the internet. But again, the average person has an 8-second attention span. So, you know, let's work on that, lengthening that just as a society. But in the meantime, let's like give them 8 seconds of content. And like, I know I would share it. We would all share it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And visuals,
Quickly,
right? So
quickly
it's about
digestible snippets.
Thank you all. Send me anything more you got. If something more comes to mind, move on to the next part of the activity. I really appreciate everything you all shared. Back into it.
Tyler, okay. Chase?
Yes.
Did you see that I'm back on? I can send out the questions on chat.
We'll grab that on the next one, huh? Okay. Some of y'all were here for this. A little history just of urban renewal in Beaverton. I shared this as from the new document just to show we really did begin with community engagement. Came out of the community vision, public desire to revitalize Central Beaverton. Voters approved the charter, and like Dom was talking about, you know, you put your voice forward to have this happen. This is you, and this is us doing what you want us to do. And so there was a big portion of the voter approved both the city charter and the urban renewal plan to get this all kicked off. So how have we done community engagement historically? Like I was saying earlier, mostly project specific, a lot of that information on the spectrum. 1 or 2 times was common, so we'd go out, you know, share about what's happening. Consultant involvement, and then long-term relationships. We've built up some great long-term relationships, but also we've noticed that a lot of our long-term relationships, we've been consistently going back to the same folks and wanting more to involve new people as well. Keep adding more people to the party, both things like URAC and in who we're engaging out in the community. And then some feedback opportunities in there. We've used these kind of tools and strategies. As you can see, a lot of our stuff has been physical, flyers, postcards, door to door. A lot of the team members who work on BURA and in the development division in general are really great folks on the face-to-face meetings and calling up the people they know downtown, building up the relationship with the businesses. And we've done a lot of stuff like this, but as you know, things have changed. We're online, we're doing more virtually, more digitally. And so more virtual meetings now. And Kelly was actually the one to really get this rolling more through Zoom translation. So we've, I think more than ever, have had translation in a lot of our meetings because of the technology that's been available. Here's a few more of the tech solutions. So like I say, we go to those projects, we find what level on that spectrum, and we are plugging in and saying, okay, you know, we really want to do a consultation project, pulling out the social media, discussion polls, and those sort of things to really right size it. This is another thing we've started asking a lot with community engagement. All of our projects, we're asking who is most likely to benefit, who is most likely to be harmed or negatively impacted, and who are we talking with and why? This is something we're bringing in internally to really try to address a lot of the questions around racial equity and really asking these with a racial equity lens of how that would then affect BIPOC communities. So, discussion 2. Showed you a little bit about what we've done in this discussion. Kelly, if you mind sharing those questions. I want to talk about your ideas. Oh, she's got it already. Of what else we have. There's a lot of shared assets and knowledge, relationships, ideas, tools that you all know about. So the first question I have, and if Tyler, if you are able to pull up a sheet to share after this, if you want to write up on the top of it, groups or relationships, your call. What other groups or organizations are in your networks that we can share about BURA through? There's the people we know one-on-one, but y'all are very involved folks. What else do we got out there, or what do you know about that maybe you're not 100% involved in, but you know people who are?
One category I see missing is nonprofit advocacy groups for whatever they're advocating for. There are a ton of them in Beaverton. They have targeted audiences who live here, who may not be part of the mainstream at all. I think adding advocacy groups to the list.
Thank you. This is where things like those NAC groups also come in. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would just echo Ann's statement that the community engagement we've been doing through our office, the most success has been connecting to existing service providers or community groups that are targeted towards the specific populations and using those relationships to get specific input on projects. The widespread, kind of distributed engagement is not very successful. We've really had to use community partners to get good input.
So one of the things that we've been doing with THPRD that's been really helpful is talking to the Beaverton School District, because if you want to really tap into every community that might not otherwise be engaged, public schools are kind of a touch point for every community. And so I know THPRD is a little bit different, but we have found that we're able to reach a lot more disenfranchised folks who don't have otherwise any kind of touchstone with the community involvement at that level. We can get to them through schools, people who English isn't their first language, people who are in multi-generational households, things like that, where you normally don't see a lot of people. And so maybe think about how to interact a little bit more with Beaverton School District if we need to kind of talk through community engagement, and especially if it's going to impact schools at all. I mean, because Beaverton High School is downtown. So I don't know, it's just one of the things we do.
I was thinking about that too, and this may be a reach, but I used to do a lot of work with a group called Informal, and they used to be called BEC before that, but they're based in Beaverton and they're focused in STEM education for elementary and middle school kids for the most part, although they have done some high school work. And so I was thinking about that school connection, and they focus in schools that do have a higher percentage of families who are struggling. And we do have some of those in the Beaverton area that they support. And so just thinking from bringing kids into these projects as a way to introduce them to a different way that STEM. So I used to teach, don't freak out, but they let me teach 4th and 5th grade. And I would go in there and do these projects with these little kids, and it was so much fun. This healthcare IT geek, was in there, on the floor with them doing marbles and ramps and all kinds of things, trying to make science, fun. And I was just thinking, this is a really different kind of approach to that same conversation about why you stay in school and pay attention to math class, is maybe you would be part of doing the architecture for reframing the front of a building, or participating in some of the other tons of projects that we're doing. And maybe there's a way to include kids, and if we're including kids, boy, this is going on, isn't it? Then maybe we would include their parents, and it would kind of be working upstream and kind of building that engagement with the kids, and then broadening out from there. It's probably a reach, but I thought it was interesting from the kids' perspective to have something different.
I love that. They have a lot of good stuff to share too, and there's a lot of things that kids can be involved in. It builds also that culture of important to be involved in projects and civic institutions. We actually, for the Downtown Equity Strategy, just got done with the meeting last week with the Black Parent Union for Beaverton School District, which was really interesting to hear their perspective with working with their kids and also with the school.
Well, if you want an introduction to the ED, I know her. So if it's something that you want to pursue, I mean, I don't know, just talk about it, think about it. But if you do, then I can connect you with that group.
Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Who else are you seeing? Another way to think about this is, what are some groups that are missing, or people that you're like, hey, they should be connected with this? you can speak generally too. Like one thing I think is professional groups, right? Like there are probably groups of different types of professions, like healthcare professionals, HR professionals that work in the area that might be really interested in knowing what's happening for the rest of the employees in the area. Transportation, buildings. Yep.
Chase, that's exactly what I was going to say. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My heater clicked on, so I had to switch over to my headphones. So women in transportation seminars, which is WTS, those are all, they're women who work, I mean, there's men as well. But it's all of the, not just the public transportation agencies, but the construction companies that help build light rail or BRT. And then they work on various components of that, people who are involved in bus builds or things like that. And those are all people who are obviously already civic minded. Maybe not obviously. A lot of them are civic minded because they're in an industry that's focused on transportation. And so that right there is one of those first groups that jumps out at me. There's also young professionals in transportation. There's also the ELGL, which I used to be really involved in, which is the emerging local government leaders. So there are quite a few groups. And like Kevin Teeter, who is on the BDA, like he's also involved with ELGL. I mean, there's people that are, to your earlier point, they're connected in different spots. So
there's a lot of technology groups, obviously, that would be available.
And we talked about the NACs earlier, but I still think that's a pretty good idea. I know, so I'm on the BCCI as well, and one of the things we do each month is come up with a list of topics for each of the reps to take back to their NACs. So that would be a pretty easy way to do it, as needed on a monthly basis. Just say, hey, here's something, bring back, let them know, here's how you get involved, here's what's going on, here's the information. Send that out to your various NACs.
I like that, take backs, takeaways.
Mm-hmm. And just back to Sarah's point, I mean, let's not give them big homework projects, but give them little bite-sized pieces that they can just take and hand off. I think that'll be pretty effective.
Any other connections folks can think about right now before we move on to the next question? All right, so those are our connections. Then I want to just ask, what tools or channels are out there that you all have heard about or know about? You already shared about Nextdoor. People have actually talked about LinkedIn before for different things. What have you seen that works, that could be maybe a good fit for some of the stuff we're doing?
I think that LinkedIn is generally underused. So this is something I'll be working on in my own agency, because it's a professional site. And so my interactions, the people I'm connected to on there are not necessarily, some of them are friends, but a lot of them are professional networking, and we were talking about like urban renewal projects, for instance. I mean, there's a lot of people who could potentially be involved in that from all kinds of, you have IT people. I mean, I think of like the Patricia Reeser project and how many different industries are involved in that. And so I think that LinkedIn gets overlooked. And I think that there's a lot of people who are probably, for good, bad, or different, in my sort of general demographic, that they're going to be, I'm more inclined to put something like you're related on LinkedIn than I would be probably on my Facebook account, right? And so, because for me, it's a very serious thing. It's not my fun family stuff. And so I think it's really underused.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, I was going to mention last time I looked at the city of Beaverton's LinkedIn, none of it had been built out with like a logo or photos or anything. And I see that since changed. So that's great. That's a good development.
I agree with Vanessa. I think that LinkedIn is probably a better platform. The one, I guess, the caveat I would add is that, a lot of the people that we are trying to reach and trying to get engaged won't necessarily have a LinkedIn. And, so in that sense, Facebook is probably a better way to do it. And I wonder if one way to get that message out to a lot of the right interested people is if you could have local businesses, particularly ones that are in the area or next to a project that's happening, share those out, because I know a lot of people will follow their favorite restaurant or boutique or whatever on Facebook, and that would be a perfect way to get that information out in a more serious context, I guess, but would potentially get you more people engaged who you wouldn't otherwise be able to reach.
Yeah, I have a principle that I like to call the Little Mermaid principle. You all remember that movie? She sings, "I want to be where the people are." And COVID has really changed that, obviously, a lot. I like to think a lot of, where can we get a flyer in front of someone? Where can we put information so that someone sees it? But where do you all go right now for information? Where would you, if you were hearing about a new building project or exciting thing that's coming to downtown Beaverton, the newspaper still? Where are you checking that out?
So to Eric's point, I think it really depends on your demographic. So the right channel is you're going to have to first assess who we're trying to reach, what are the percentages of how we're trying to do that, and then determining what's the best channel to reach that audience. Just from a marketing point of view, that I don't think it's a one size fits all, unless you just say we're going to try and hit 50% of this pool of people, and that's best suited to this tool, and we're done. But there's a ton of folks who are not in my generation, but younger, who all they do is hang out on Instagram. They tried WhatsApp for a while and gave that up. And then it was Snapchat, and then that was too juvenile. So, but Insta has really been one of the top things for people who are millennials and younger. So it just depends on who we're going after, right? If we're going after my generation or older, Facebook is probably a great place to be. If you're going for a professional audience, you're looking for corporate support or knowledge, participation, folks that are in the working world, that are purveyors of LinkedIn already as a daily consumable media form, then yeah, LinkedIn's great. I probably spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on Facebook, because I spend most of my day, sadly, thinking about work. So I just think it depends on who you're going after, and then you go after that media.
Short form video content would be great, and then that's something you could use, across multiple platforms too, Facebook, YouTube, etc.
Yes.
Even so, short little.
And don't forget the Twitter. Don't forget the Twitter.
Yeah, I think Twitter's actually a really good one that we haven't really talked about. Yeah, I think, yeah.
It almost seems, if you're using a social media approach, just why not all of them? I mean, there's no need to stick with just one or the other. I mean, that's what I feel like I see most companies take that approach, that they have one for each and an account for each, and maybe one's a little bit, like you said, reaching different audiences, and to that point of different companies or in this respect, local restaurants or boutiques or whatever it is that you're interested in follow. I find that I get a lot of information about things that are happening in downtown from those types of engaged, restaurants or businesses that are down here. And they're the ones that are good about sharing it, I think is a real asset, because I think that folks do they opt in to following things that they already are interested in, and then if they're sharing a wider message, you're going to be more likely to actually read that message because it's being shared by someone or something that you already enjoy or like. But so I think ones that come to mind, I know Lionheart Coffee and Syndicate Wine, both of those are super good about posting things all the time. I get a ton of information from
I see Syndicate all the time, every day or something. Yeah.
So I think, if working with, engaging with those getting more and more downtown businesses to be engaged in sharing things on their social medias accounts would be really effective.
Yeah, and the Beaverton Downtown Association, I think, does a good job of forwarding on their types of content. And I feel like, again, as somebody like, we talked about the sort of people don't understand the difference between like the government and BURA, and like I would put Beaverton Downtown Association in there. Is it's like, how are these all related but different? And so again, it's like sort of the brought to you by versus the, you know, like there's a way to sort of start to like have a little bit of a BURA brand or sort of an actual sort of downtown or city government brand versus the downtown association. But a lot of it is just recirculating content. Like I said, people forward stuff. So I see like Jan's book forward syndicates thing and Lionheart, they're all like doing, I mean, I follow all of them and I feel like I'm an informed citizen of downtown eating, but there's a lot of other things. But they're so good about forwarding. And so I think like if you sort of get on that train and people start to see like, oh, this is like a bureau, who's BURA? Like, you know, sort of like you start to like crawl up the trail of getting to know the organizations behind the restaurants.
Yeah, I think an important thing to remember is just to make, you know, quality, easily digestible content. So, yeah.
I was going to say also connecting with businesses that have non-native English speakers so that they could actually, like, if we post something, doesn't matter, to your point, Paige, it's like take advantage of all of the channels, right? You have to maybe tweak the message a little bit based on the channel, but making sure we're connecting with people who will share that information in another language. You know, one of my friends sits on the, I don't even know the technical name of it. That's pretty sad. I should know the name of it. The Diversity Council that we have, and works on the night market. You guys probably know her, Jody Monroe. And so she's, you know, she is married to a Mexican man. She speaks Spanish. She shares a lot of stuff from the city. And when she does it, she translates it, right? And so finding people who will also help us with some of that. You know, we have a huge Asian population, we have a huge Russian population, we have Somali. I mean, there's all these other languages, and so finding one of those connections, to your point, Sarah, one of those chain links that also have that person who helps us translate into whatever that audience's primary language, demographic language might be, to help communicate some of that, because I think we have a big gap there.
You could actually take that and build up a local network of influencers too. Find, you know, people in all of these various groups, say, you know, the Russian community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community, and yeah, find, you know, almost develop like a group of Beaverton brand ambassadors for BURA to help spread the word and all these things. So
some signal boosters.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be an influencer.
Get on it, Dominic.
Is it just about getting the free stuff sent to you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, people get paid to do it on Instagram. So, you know, I know a girl who gets paid to get pictures taken of her by her friends wearing clothes that she didn't buy.
That may never happen with our, like, take a picture next to a crane, but I think there's some ways that we can incorporate them.
You need to just flesh it out a little more. That's okay. We're on the way.
Well, Tyler, will you share your screen with us briefly? Tyler wrote down the notes of what you had, and I just wanted to share this to show in a few minutes everything that we came up with.
Drum roll.
Sorry, my bad. I was trying to do the unmute. Did it show?
Just getting a black screen.
But it's black.
There it is.
There we go.
This is the relationship groups one. Now, I did relationships, and then I also did tools. On the tools, it was kind of just the social media platforms that we talked about. I didn't write down any of the details of the additional information that we were chatting about.
But I wanted to share this back with you all just to show there's such a depth once again here, and we want to keep expanding the voices coming to URAC with new ideas and new perspectives, but also what's already here is really talented and really thankful for what you bring. And I want you to know that we value this, and I'm going to be taking this all back and rooting around and using it for where we go next. Tyler, if you mind sharing your screen. The last engagement for tonight, we've talked about the message, we've talked about how we get it out there, but a big portion of what you all do is these meetings and your time. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. Okay. So the URAC mission, as a reminder, reviewing and advising on BURA topics, and then also in the mission for URAC as a venue for public outreach. So this meeting time is a venue for people to come and share what their thoughts are. The way we've done URAC in the past, I'm preaching the choir here, you're the experts on this, but in my perspective, we've been centered mostly around the monthly meetings. There has been an emphasis in the past on informing projects. We've done project presentations, site walkthroughs, program updates, 5-year plan. And we've had times now more recently to keep moving into more chances for engagement and feedback, where that feedback is then shared with the Bureau board and decision makers. So where do we go from here? How do we change this? How to improve this? We go over to the questions that Kelly has dropped in the chat. Thank you, Kelly. How can we best honor your time, knowledge, and expertise? So question number 1 for that is, what ways would you like to be involved more? There'll be a survey going out after this where you can share maybe some more individual things, but what ways do you think URAC should be involved more?
Well, I mean, the question is pre or during COVID. I mean, I want site visits, but that's not going to happen because we're in lockdown. So, I mean, it's hard to answer that, you know, when we're isolated. I hate Zoom meetings. I hate them with a passion, a fiery passion, but yet I'm on them constantly. And I would love to not have these. I'd love to be back to in-person meetings, but that's not going to happen for quite a while. So there's not a lot, I think, at least for me right now, that you can do. But generally speaking, I want more site visits.
Love it. Does digital visits not scratch the itch?
Probably not, but we haven't tried that yet. So maybe that would be super fun. I don't know.
See if we can all fly a drone together. But I think there's other ways we can do it. Yeah, Paula.
I had a procedural suggestion, and that is before the agenda goes out, that the producer of the agenda has worked with the folks that are accountable for the topics on the agenda to identify what the meeting goals are for each item. If I had those in advance, it would really help me just kind of understand how and what I'm supposed to be participating about and at what level. So if this is just an inform and it's just, hey, we're coming to you. If you like it, don't like it, you can state your opinion, but this deal's done. The parking garage is going to be the parking garage, you know, or whatever it is. That's fine, but just understanding, you know, what are you looking for from us for each topic? There's a framework to do that. There's a few of them that I think would just help us as we're engaging with the folks. So sometimes I don't know if I'm just supposed to be smiling and nodding, or if I'm supposed to, you know, are they looking for some, like, you know, challenge me, you know, or what are they really looking for? So I think that would help.
Yeah, I agree. Clear action items for every discussion topic would be great. What are you looking to, you know, get from us? Yeah.
To know about that beforehand so that you can come to the meeting.
Yes, yeah.
What else, folks? What else would you be excited to see change or have involvement with?
Well, just like with the equity plan, I thought it was great when, you know, they came, we gave comments, and then they came back later and said, hey, we took your comments, here's how we implemented them. I thought that was really, really helpful, and something that, you know, it doesn't even have to be a big, you know, this is going to be the primary thrust of the meeting. It could just be a little 5-minute thing. Hey, just wanted to let you know, here's how your feedback a couple months ago was incorporated into this project. I think that would be neat.
Got it. Yeah, it always feels nice to know when someone actually listened to you and takes that and incorporates it in some way. That's part of the promise too of where we're going with community engagement, is you should be able to be meaningful, involved in the process.
And the other way too. So if we give some feedback, some strong feedback about something, and it's not able to be accommodated, then it'd be nice to hear about why.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to be an advisory committee, I mean.
Yeah, I think the other group that it's would be interesting to hear from is BURA. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what does BURA want from the advisory committee, and sort of over the course of like the year, like what are some goals? Because if it's really to sort of shape everything before it comes in through BURA, then like some things might need to come to, I think, you know, Tyler and Chase, you guys try to like get a broad set of things for this group. But if something comes and it's like we give a ton of feedback and they have to sort of rework it, they might want to come the next meeting. So it might be 2 meetings of downtown equity strategy just to help them get ready for going in front of the BURA board, versus like in service of this committee getting a broad sort of depth of knowledge of the city. Like if like, you know, that group needs the most time and that group gets the most time. But like that's where like I'd sort of be interested in a little bit of a selfish comment in that. I think that's where sort of Vanessa and I switching from here to there can help with that, of like, hey, what's the goal of this group? And like, what does the board need of this group? I think would be another good stakeholder engagement piece.
A good segue into, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I would echo that comment. Like, I don't have a clear picture on how our input relates to BURA in general. I don't know what gets relayed to them. Because it feels like we deal with city staff directly, and but we don't really see how it's going up to BURA and being implemented or not, or.
Yeah, like the circle back. That's it. That would be helpful, Jennifer. So it's like, hey, this came to this group, and then, you know, July meeting, and then it went to BURA, and then sort of it was approved, or like it was rejected. That would be like a nice sort of circle back, because then it really feels like, oh, you're seeing the impact, because it's sort of 8 degrees of separation sometimes. But yeah.
Well, and the other side of that is what feedback is BURA getting from us? Like, if, you know, we make recommendations to city staff, and they choose to incorporate that or not incorporate that, is BURA ever hear about that, or do they just see a finished product?
These are all very good questions. And Anessa and Sarah, we're going to figure it out, right?
That's that perfect timing.
Well, what I was thinking about when we were saying this is it's like it's almost like there needs to be a quarterly meeting that has maybe not everybody from I know we do like a URAC representative goes and does a presentation at BURA, but like it's like almost like we need to have some kind of quarterly check-in. I know a long time ago in a world far, far away, when I was the chair, we used to the chairs used to meet in advance of the like between the meetings, and they would meet and talk and compare notes and talk about expectations. And so I think there's some opportunities to bring some of that back and think about how the groups interface, because I mean, you're right, Paula, and I've always thought the same thing. URAC's an advisory committee, and the intent is you're supposed to give recommendations, in my head, recommendations to BURA or to the city councilors or whoever it is, based on our expertise, which I think more than one person have given really good examples of that tonight on how we do have all that expertise in this group about, you know, we were talking about boundary lines and, you know, paths and whatever, fill in the blank, right? So I think that there's a way to connect those better, and marry them up and make sure that people are feeling fulfilled. Sorry, there's a lot of vowels in there. That they're feeling that loop is complete, and that whatever URAC is recommending is getting at least heard at the BURA level, right? I mean, because we don't even know that necessarily. So it's always kind of been a weird for all the years. It's always been a little weird thing. So
just more communication, what it sounds like. So on that note, we're getting up to the end of the time for the agenda item. I'm going to move the last couple questions I had onto this survey that we'll be sending out to you in the next couple weeks, just kind of about your experience on URAC, some of the other thoughts, and maybe a chance to share anonymously a little bit about some of your feedback. So if you say, I absolutely hate that Chase guy, you can say it without fear of repercussions. But in the meantime, what questions do you have for me about community engagement? I'm here. I want to give you a chance to ask. You can always also send me an email as well if there's anything you want to know about how we do, what I do, what my thoughts are, or what could be changed.
Just a question, Chase, like how could this group be more helpful to you?
This is a really great start. And I think then, like we're talking about, if we're producing information to put out there, really taking the opportunities in your other spheres to share those quick things. Or if we know that a project's coming up, like Paula was talking about, hey, we're talking about this next month at URAC, taking a chance just to ask the folks around you, what do you all think about this, making this train a little bit quieter that's going through downtown, or this new bike path, and then bringing that back to us. Just continuing that flow of information would be really helpful. And of course, telling us if we're absolutely whacking off our rocker too. Everybody needs to check every once in a while, and it's nice to hear it from friends.
So what, from your perspective, Chase, what is the information that you would like to most get out to the community, to people who aren't necessarily as engaged? What do you want them to know about BURA?
I think for me, it really is goals oriented. I want them to know what they need to be able to then provide good advice and inform, so that they know, you know, with that information they're giving, what that actually means to the project. I think a lot of times on technical stuff, people go out with a lot of terminology, and you ask people for advice and you don't give them time to think about it, learn about it, know about it. And then you say, oh, well, everybody said they liked this better, but they didn't know about the implications of what that actually meant. And you go 20 steps down the line, and all of a sudden the end result is something they absolutely hate and didn't want in the first place. So for me, it's that the goal of information, and then also just celebrating the successes, the really great things that have happened. I think there's a lot of work that's been done by staff and volunteers and private companies and nonprofits that I think really needs to be shouted about more from the rooftops that we've built. And also more pets. Jennifer, very beautiful kitten, always.
Well, Jennifer, last year you had like a cute dog too, so you're just like cycling through the pets.
I have a house full of pets, yeah.
So cute. All right, any other questions? We'll wrap it up. Fantastic. Thank you all for your time. I really appreciated just having the chance to ramble at you for a bit and then a significant amount of time to actually hear from you. Hand it back to...
Thank you for structuring it so nicely.
Thank you, Chase. That was fantastic, and thank you, everyone. That was very helpful. You know, it's great to be able to kind of talk about this in a important point in time as well. Not just the fact that I think Inessa kind of alluded to our times as two chairs meeting, and I thought, you know, that was, you know, fantastic in that moment in time. A lot of that was more about process. We had, you know, not a lot of projects, and it was about setting things up. And you know, now that we're on a different path and a different glide pattern, these are important messages to kind of get back to where we need to be. And so great conversation, Chase. Nice job of presenting, and thanks for everyone for your attention and spending time with it, because this is the next good thing that we're going to be doing here with urban redevelopment. So please, as Chase mentioned, there's a survey going out, and spend some time with that. It'll probably be here before the end of the year, kind of that time frame. That's what Chase is looking for, right? Okay, so I've got, I'm looking at the time, it's 8:15. I think, we've talked quite a bit tonight, and one of the things we were trying to do is be out here before 8:30, even sooner. I'm gonna send out the Beaverton area project list to you. I'm going to also send a link to a PRCA video that was recently done. Some of you may have seen it. It's kind of fun introduction into the building itself, and so you can kind of get a walkabout for Rebecca's kind of needs, but doesn't really probably fulfill. But it does give you a sense of the space and what's going on in there. So we'll send that out to you. Is there any projects or anything that you would like me to touch on before we kind of end tonight?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
What about the 2 projects in Beaverton Central that you guys are negotiating? Are those still moving forward, or has COVID impacted them?
Yeah, good questions, Jen. So the ones that she's referring to is BC2 and Beaver Dam West over on Beaver Dam Road, kind of on the east side of Beaverton, the BG Food Cartel, and on the west side of Rose BG. So both of those are still moving forward. They've had to kind of dart and dodge a little bit, but they are still walking down the path of trying to get to some good concepts and good solutions. There's been, some conversations that have been going on out there in order to kind of right size and figure things out. So they are moving forward, to answer your question. The BC2's project, that's the one on the east side. One of the things that kind of came out is what we talked about earlier today, and that was the Sub-Basin Strategy that we're going to be moving forward with. And they're one of the first projects in our urban renewal area that goes, hey, this is some serious stuff. We've designed this, it's going to cost us lots of money, and it's going to take up land area. And so that's one of those pieces that is ticking our box of going, golly gee shucks, we gotta look at this. Does that answer your question? Okay, Andy?
This might be on your list. I was curious, I saw the former Stars building on Lombard finally getting done and cleaned up. Is that still going to be the Korean barbecue?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I don't think it's on our list, and Chase will have to chase that one down.
Okay. Nice.
But yeah, I was by there the other day as well and seeing that they've got contractors working on things and moving forward. So yeah, that's a good question, but it is still the Korean barbecue.
Nice. I think the coming soon sign had disappeared, I think after a storm a while back. So I was just curious.
I think it's K-Town, I believe.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Great. Nice.
One small thing to just tease. At BURA tomorrow, they will be hopefully approving the BURA annual report and 5-year action plan. So a lot of your feedback went into that, and they'll be sharing that more on next month's meeting. So you'll be getting links. You'll be able to see it and see the fruits of your information and help on that. So thank you.
Yeah, if you want a sneak peek, you can go into the BURA agenda and you can take a peek at that. We decided not to show that to you tonight. We figured we probably should take that to BURA first in case they do have some changes, final changes, before it goes to adoption. Okay, anything else? Final thoughts, words of wisdom for 2020 and kicking it down the path?
We can do hard things.
That's right. Look at us, huh? And Dom's phone, his battery is dying on him. That's why he knocked off there.
I was looking for Dom, but Anne and Sarah and Vanessa, we're gonna miss you guys. So
thanks, Eric.
Same.
We're gonna miss you guys.
Now you guys can hold Nessa and I. We'll have to figure out how to meld the worlds, and we can be accountable parties for that. So look for more there. And coming with like here's what the board needs from the advisory committee. I think that's like, again, Vanessa has a lot more even experience than I have sort of serving here, but like, you know, I definitely think we can take that with us as joint ownership, right, Vanessa? Keep up the great work.
Thank you guys. Happy holidays to whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate.
And good luck if anybody makes it to Hawaii for work from Hawaii. We're all with you in spirit.
Into it.
Yeah, it's the first 50 tickets, so you better get on it, Paula. There's no time to wait.
Also, Barbados, a year work visa. Check it out.
Okay.
I'm living in my hole here. There's so many options.
I'm telling you, I am thinking about these things.
Eric, this is the kind of feedback I'm really looking for.
Wish you would have just jumped to the chase. Hey, thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. And Sarah, Vanessa, Dom, thank you for everything, you guys. And stay in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye, Cal.
Bye, Vanessa.
I had to say bye to Kelly before I could hang up. Sorry. Bye, guys.
No, sorry,
Bye, Vanessa. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.